Hello, hello, my name is Ken. Welcome to my Fundamentals of GeoGuessr Duels series. In this series, we're starting with a brand new GeoGuessr account, and we are learning the basics and slowly adding on more and more information to help us get better at the game. So if you're a brand new player, this is a great series to start with. I think this is the seventh episode in, and we've learned quite a bit already. But today, I thought we would take a look at two countries that we have run into a bunch of times. Particularly in the last episode, we ran into Portugal, and then we've seen France on and off a bit as well. So, um, as usual, we'll go into the map maker and we'll just take a look at a few examples, and then look at Plonket, and then we'll look at um, where where all of our guesses are. So, let's start with France. So. Um, in France, one of the really common things that you will see are these city signs. So they tell you the city and the distance, as well as a road marker. So most of the road routes have this D and then a number, and it's in this bright yellowish orange background. So very common. We can also see a typical French bollard here. And again, we see the similar signs again. The font looks very similar across the country. So um, as you see those, start thinking France. Um, what else do we have? Let's take a look at here. Again, we have that bollard. So those are very easy to identify from far off. The other thing in this picture here is we have this blue marker that is tacked onto the pole. So you'll see that mostly on wooden poles, but you can occasionally see it on concrete poles. But for most of the wooden poles, you will see that in France. So, and of course, we got like these green rolling hills across France. So if you're in the middle of nowhere, and you have those green hills, that might be a good indication you're there. Um, Again, we have the long European license plates, but you will notice is a blue blur on each side of the plate. So that is a French style plate. We also have a road marker here. So in France, they write rue to indicate road, and yeah, I think those are the main things. So we also have that D here. This is actually probably not as common, this style sign, but it does have the same similar style as the white and black that we saw in the other examples. So that's a quick rundown of France. Let's look at Portugal. So we just talked about the license plates in France having blue on both sides. In Portugal, they have blue on the left and yellow on the right. That is very unique to Europe. So if you see that, that's a very strong indication that you are in Portugal. And just take a look at this sign. So obviously Lisbon is in Portugal. And they speak Portuguese. Did want to show you these bollards. So these are they look very similar to the German bollards, but um, they, hopefully the landscape might help you get over to Portugal. And the chevrons, the black and yellow, I believe that's unique to Portugal. We'll check the Plonket guide to double check. And then the other thing that we saw a bunch in the previous episodes were these poles. They look very similar to the Brazil poles or the Chile poles. So they're concrete, and they have these three sections. And this one actually has holes through it. So that is something very common you will see in Portugal. So those like Brazilian style poles with the holes through them. Okay, we looked at that. Let's take a look at the Plonket guides to make sure we didn't miss anything huge. So blue on the left and right of the license plates in France. Domain name is .fr. So obviously they speak French in France. Rue, we talked about that. We looked at these bollards, so that looks good. We didn't see this bollard. In the previous episodes, we have been talking about these step poles or ladder poles, and also the lat pull down topper. So that is something to look out for. I didn't see an example. We did see these blue stickers, and there it is again, the lat pull down, and then of course these signs that we highlighted. Um, so that's France. Let's take a look at Portugal. The .pt web domain. We haven't spent a lot of time looking at signs. We had some opponents yesterday that did a decent job of looking at signs and figuring out where they were. And unfortunately, we lost to them, but that's all right. So green, not green, blue and yellow on the sides, and that's what the blur looks like. We saw that. Portuguese in Portugal, so the funny looking thing, a hook on the bottom of the C's, and some of these accents will help you identify Portuguese. So that's going to be useful in Brazil as well. We talked about Brazil quite a bit. Instead of rue, like we saw in France, rua for the streets in Portugal. We talked about the poles. These no hunting signs, we saw those, well, we talked about them on the Plonket guide for Spain, but you will see these in Portugal as well. So if you're in a rural location, there's a good chance you'll see that. The bollard that we looked at, and then did we look at these signs? These signs are very common across Portugal, so they're just the city signs in the direction that they go. They're at. And then the black and yellow chevron. So those are the main ones that I wanted to highlight. I guess these little stone walkways and streets are common. You will see that throughout the country. But I think that's enough to get us going there. So let's take a look at the quick locations. If you're new with us, so the idea here is not to win by just making these amazing guesses that I would be able to make as an experienced player, but rather make a good guess based on the knowledge that the player at the level that we're at now would be able to make. So I'm not getting these hungry locations and zooming into the city and plonking it down in the right exact spot. So currently when we see something that looks European, we're clicking in the center of Europe unless it's one of the special countries that we've already looked at. So we just added France and Portugal. We're not going to move our basic European guess. So if we see something Norway, Sweden, or Finland, we're just going to guess the middle of Europe. Surprisingly, we've been very successful with that, even with the Scandinavian countries that are far away, including Iceland. We've been doing pretty well. The ones that I'm adding are ones that we've lost on. So a lot of the players at the current level can easily identify France and Portugal. Certainly Spain, that was one of the first ones we did. So that's why we're adding them, because I think that the players at the Silver 3, which is where we're at, can identify these countries and make at least a decent guess to the country. So, but we are not worried about finding the specific location. We're putting it in the middle of the country and hoping for the best there. So that's a little explanation of what we're seeing here. So we did dissect South America. I am, after this, I'm going to record a learnable meta video just on Latin America, because I'm not entirely pleased with how that that section went out. So I haven't released it yet, but I think I'm gonna precede it with a overview with the learnable meta map, and I think that will fill that gap there. In North America, we're still guessing middle of the US, and then Mexico, and then I guess now we're grouping Mexico in with the Latin America learnable meta stuff. Africa, we only had 2 places. Oceania, still 1. We've only been burnt on New Zealand twice, I think, maybe once. And then for Asia, we do have our Eastern Russia guess, which saved us on Mongolia, and then Japan and South Korea we've learned. The Indian subcontinent, we have like a north guess and a south guess, and then Southeast Asia for all the other Southeast Asian countries. So, yeah, with that said, let me switch over to, oh, I didn't switch my camera over for all that. That's okay. So sorry if you couldn't see the entire map there. Okay, so we are in Silver 3. We've been playing pretty well. Out of 20 games, we've won 13 of them. And so we have been competitive with these pretty strict rules. And with that, I don't want to get double promoted because I do want to kind of go through the levels. So my inspiration for this, it comes from the chess world, and I always felt so mostly they've been done by grandmasters and IMs, and I always feel like they rush through my level. So I don't want to do that to you guys. I think there's quite a bit of benefit at staying in some of these lower levels. I don't want to rush to get double promoted, but if you are interested in playing this game and want to push for double promotion, that's great. It looks like I have 800 points to work with, so let's get playing. Okay, so 85 duels played. They're from India, so maybe we should hope not to get India. So we have yellow lines in the middle of the street. We have short license plates and sun in the south. This is going to be North America North, so we'll give it our center of the US guess. I guess there's kind of a slight hedge towards Canada on our guess, but not that much, just because most of the coverage in Canada is pretty far south. So especially like the Toronto area. And again, we're successful there, putting it in the middle of the country. Looks like we will still be putting off separating out the US. So, all right, it looks cool here. I don't see any yellow lines. I do see some little white dashes on the outside. So very cool. Do we see any license plates? Maybe that looks pretty long to me. So we'll give it a Europe guess. I think that's our Europe guess. And we are again good in Scandinavia. So far so good. I was tempted to do a video of just the original 6 guesses again to see how we do here. So far, that's what we've done. Okay, we have sun, I think, in the north. We do have all white lines. And they have guessed pretty quickly. So all white lines is our Oceania guess. They're on the wrong continent, and unfortunately that was about as far away as we could have gotten there. The yellow poles there could have gotten us to that side of Australia, but okay, so we have, is this Spanish? Looks Spanish to me. Let's see about any polls or anything that we can figure out which continent we're on. So I don't have anything obvious here to tell us North America or South. Here, that's a water tank that we see in Mexico often. So let's do our Mexico guess. And they guess it as well. And we happened to be, because we were rushed, we didn't quite click on the middle of Mexico City. Even if we did, I think we'd have been slightly closer. Okay, so we have a yellow line in the center here. It is a divided highway, so it is tricky to tell. Short license plate and sun in the south. So let's put it in the middle of North America again. And it was Canada, and that was enough to win. So 1 for good game to our opponent. And we got a new Explorer badge. All right. Oh, two new badges. So, easy win there. Mostly just clicking in the middle of the continent. So, I mentioned that at the beginning of the video. So we want to make guesses that are equal to the level of player that we're trying to represent here. So, we certainly could have looked around here and made a better guess as to which part of the North America we were in. Um, I think this one may have been tricky. There wasn't a ton of information to look at. Oh, maybe that was a Canadian flag to at least get us up into Canada. Um, and then if we had gotten to the sign, um, I think we might be able to make that out. Oh, Ontario Street. And then what does that say? Northumberland? Yeah, okay. So, um, yeah, that maybe could have gotten us to Ontario, but that's not quite the point of the video. Let's look at the other North America one here. So, again, with double yellow lines and curvy streets, that may have gotten us to the East Coast if we looked around for quite a bit. Um, and not much else to say about that. So then we have Sweden. So one of the common things that you will see in Sweden are these little tiny white dashes on the sides of the roads. Um, so that will get you up into that country for a guess. It does look very cold here. The climate with these mossy rocks and the pine trees, that certainly would help you get to at least the Scandinavian region. As I mentioned at the very beginning, we haven't had a reason to separate out the any of these Scandinavian countries yet. So, and there was just another example of that. Let's look at Australia. I mentioned in the previous video I'd start sharing some of the ways that you can identify the different states of Australia. I think that's what they call them, territories and states. I think they have. Um, so the Western Australia, they often have these yellow poles. So that would have gotten us to the right side of the country, and we had the all white lines and sun in the north. I believe. We did see that. And then Mexico. So it took us a second here to figure it out because I did not immediately see any octagon poles, but there is one right here. That's one thing that we're looking for Mexico. It was overcast, so sun was difficult to find. And then, of course, as I say, sun is difficult to find. It comes out, and it would have been tricky to figure out there. So sun not always as helpful as you would like. And we did find the water tank that we talked about with Mexico. So, and then we talked about that. So, good game. That was another win for us. And like I said, we're putting it in the middle of the continent and unless we can identify the country, and then we're just putting it in the middle of the country. So that has been very successful for us. Okay, this immediately strikes me as European. We see the short white dashes on the sides of the road. We do have a long license plate. And then, yeah, sun is definitely in the south. So we'll do our typical Europe guess. And so I mentioned the little stripes in Sweden. And that is where it was. Our opponent actually got Scandinavia, so that was good. All right. And I thought I had disabled chat, but oh well. Okay, so we have a very Asian language, and we have National Changhua Living Arts Center. we have reflector here. I don't think we've talked about this. This is going to be one of the special countries that we look at. Our country is maybe a politically divisive statement, depending on where you are. So I'm just giving this our Southeast Asia guess. Our opponent's going to go Japan. They are not going to be correct. But Taiwan. So Taiwan, obviously, China, but not really China. So we have all white lines. Let's check the sun. So sun is in the south, and we have cars with long license plates. We'll put it in Europe again. I didn't see anything that would immediately shout one of those other European countries. And our opponent, he's guessing Scandinavia quite a bit, but he went way too far north there. So we were okay with our Central European guess. And okay, we have, what do we have? This was a tricky one. So we have these water tanks up here. It is kind of mountainous. Let's see if we can find anything that might help us here. I think our opponent should really get this one based on their flag, but we can't go too much further up there. Ooh, we do see a mosque over here. So in this mountainous place with the mosque, we do have red roofs. So we're going to give our Western Turkey hedge, rather. And it does look like our opponent is from Turkey. So let's see if they're able to identify the exact location. And they were pretty close. So we're still alive, though. Again, the red roofs are not always a sure thing for Turkey, but I think a good hedge. So we have long license plates, white road lines, and sun in the south. Nothing is jumping out at me as being a special country here. This might be one of the ones that we learn in the near future. So it is Poland with that crosswalk there, and they were able to get it and win the game there. So good game to our opponent. They seemed to know what they were doing. And yeah, nice guy there. So I almost want to do a rematch with him there and really give it to him, but that's not the point of the channel. We'll move on. I thought that I had disabled the chat, but let's see if we can do it here. Settings, and I don't know why they don't have that in there. So maybe in our next game, let's take a look at that. And so they got Sweden. We talked about this a little bit. So the short dashes in Sweden. In Norway, they're going to have long dashes. So sometimes. Taiwan. So right now we've grouped this in the middle of Southeast Asia. Sorry, drew a blank there. Usually, so these reflectors are pretty common in Taiwan. Usually they go all the way to the bottom of the pole, but that may have been an exception. They do have the Chinese language, so that will help you get there. The other place you might get this confused with is Hong Kong. This being in a big city like this, might even be easier to confuse it with the Hong Kong area. So um, yeah, for now we're just going to continue grouping that in with Southeast Asia. Our opponents still don't know it. Um, they did get Sweden, so those short dashes again, and Sweden's not a bad guess. So the that far north with these kind of shorter stunted trees. Um, so I could see that. Turkey, they got that as their home country. And then Poland, let's take a look at Poland again. So in very typical European, um, I think we saw Poland in the last episode as well. But what I wanted to look at was this crosswalk. So in Poland, they've done the opposite of Spain. They just have one line across and then no hashes for their crosswalk sign. So that's one easy way to identify Poland. And that is that. So we'll start a new game. And let's see, this person's played 25 duels. And we are in the middle of the woods. It's not very helpful. We may have to just kind of make a guess here. Let's see if we can find some language. Maybe not really helpful. It looks more like a different language than English. So I think I'm ruling out North America. We'll see. Let's do the fast move. So if you click the arrow and then hold down space, if you've not made a guess, that will move you much quicker. And these polls don't look very North American to me, just because of how narrow they are, at least the poll toppers. So I think I'm going to hedge away from North America and start thinking about Europe. And without any other clues, we'll give it our middle of Europe guess. And they went Russia. Russia's a decent guess, I would say. I kind of thought for a moment we could be there as well. Okay, so we had some palm trees here. We do have yellow lines in the middle. We're driving on the right. And let's see if we can find some language for townhouses. Live and invest. I didn't expect that to be in English. So go fishing. Let's see if we can find some clues on these signs. See, that's Spanish, it looks. Yeah, that's Spanish as well. So I did expect more, or it could be Portuguese, I suppose. Let's see, what other clues do we have? Do we have anything that can help us here? So these signs, I feel like those are like Peru, maybe. I don't think we're in Brazil. Let's give it the Peru guess. I guessed Hawaii, and that would be why we couldn't find anything to help us there. So we have not worked on Panama yet. So that was a win just by being on the right continent. Gosh, this is a weird map today. We're in the middle of a beach. What else do we have here? Yeah, we're not even clicking in the right directions. Rip curl. Turismo. So I would say more Spanish than South America, Southeast Asia. And gosh, just not a whole lot going on here. So, and in terms of stuff out here, foliage and is that a donkey? I don't, where's the sun? Sun is south, so we'll go with Mexico. See how we do there. And very tip of Colombia. Okay, so poor guesses so far with some of these Central American countries. All right, we are in the mountains, and it does feel more South American than it does Asian. So, and based on the architecture, I guess. We do have a yellow license plate there. So based on that, I'm going to go Colombia again in the mountains. And they guessed Asia, and we were correct with Colombia. So that when I saw that yellow license plate, I'll show you it when we do the review. We'll press number 1 for the good game. Continue. And let's take a look at that history. So, okay, so we were in, oh gosh, this was just a hard map for us. So we did eventually find some power lines and the poles. I typically in North America, I think that the poles are wider at the top, so the crossbars are wider. When you see those narrow ones, I start to think Europe, Russia for sure. I think that's a fine guess there. I don't think we saw anything that would help us get to Latvia on that. We're just in the middle of nowhere, and I am not that great of a player that I would know that specific foliage there. So um, let's see. How is there anything that would indicate Panama? Panama is a fairly new country to the list, so I don't have a ton of experience with it. Usually, if I find a sign um, that helps to tell me that I'm in Panama, that's how I get it. They don't. I don't think they have the unique car, so I think Costa Rica has the white car that you or truck that you'll sometimes see in Ecuador. So we made our best guess there. It was incorrect, but our opponent made a poor guess as well. So I guess it wasn't that bad. So we had the palm trees, and for a second we were looking at English. So not too bad there. Here, let's see if we can find that car. Did I? No, I didn't get this one at all, did I? So I said Mexico because the sun was in the south. That makes sense if we were above the equator. We were just kind of stuck on the beach there. This round has just been an atypical round, but then we're in Colombia again. So good on our opponent. So I've told you in the past, if you were in kind of like a tropical location, think about Southeast Asia first, and then once the additional clues come in, then start thinking about the Central America. So I did see this yellow plate, and that is very typical of Colombia. And maybe if we can click around, maybe not. I was hoping we could at least find a sign because the other big clue for Colombia is on the back of their signs. They have a pretty distinct cross. So people call it the Colombian cross. I think there's a sign up here that we can look at. Oh, come on. Give me one more click. And this is it. So this cross is on the back of most of their signs. So that's how you figure out Colombia. And I will show that in the learnable meta as we look at that as well. So we have time for at least one more, maybe two games. So we wait for our opponent. Huh. We're having trouble with India. Peru, and Finland. That's not surprising that we're far off on Finland with our Europe guess. And all right, so we have Spanish, it looks like. We have sun in the south, so leaning towards Mexico right off the bat, or Spain maybe. Let's look at the license plates. So that is a pretty small license plate. People wearing winter coats in a place with palm trees. So what else about this? Oh, Mexico, 45. Let's put it in Mexico. That might be a clue. So our typical Mexico clues kind of failed us there. And it looks like it failed our opponent as well. All right, double yellow lines in the middle, white on the outsides. We have long plates. Interesting. Okay, let's click around and see. So that is not English. So that will put us in Europe. I think typically you will see yellow center lines in Norway. So looks like our opponent will get it. And they are from the UK, so that is maybe easier for them to learn. But surprising, I initially thought we were going to be in the US. And so similar start here. So we have double yellow lines, although we're not in the middle of the city. Sun in the south. Let's see if we can figure out. So this certainly could be, I was going to say, let me go back to here. So I was going to say either Mexico or US, but in Mexico you will see alto on the stop signs. So, and they have found an interstate. Unfortunately for them, these interstates go across the entire country. So I don't know how useful it's going to be. And it helped them quite a bit. So nice job by our opponent. And we have a long license plate. And let's see if let's look around a little bit, see if we can find any other clues. Does feel warmer, so Spain could be a possibility. Oh, we saw a license plate, a Portuguese license plate. So we talked about that at the start. We're going to put it here in Portugal. And they might be able to figure that out too. We'll see. Oh, looks like they're looking at Italy. Not a bad guess. Oh, they went Switzerland. I thought they were going to go Italy. So big points there, and that's enough for the win. So we had a fortunate round there where we actually learned what we talked about at the beginning of the episode. Let's take a quick look. And hopefully we hit, I think we'll have time for one more. So Mexico, we looked around for the signs, we read them, we found Mexico. We didn't see any of our normal Mexico clues here, aside from Spanish and small license plates. Actually, there are a few clues, but nothing specific. So Norway, so the yellow lines, the usually you do not see these in Europe, and Norway being the exception. These long license plates kept us out of the US and kept us in the game. So that is more important than nailing the specific country at this stage in the game. So yeah, our opponent got it. They're European. We're going to lose a lot of rounds to Europeans, especially as new players and as we're learning these countries. But if you can kind of stay in Europe and get it close enough, you won't lose the game after 2 rounds here. So this US one, they did find the interstate number. It's probably over here. I don't know why it didn't go this way. 680 Iowa. So that was bigger help to them than I initially thought. So they were able to find Iowa and get zoomed in on the route. So well done. And then Portugal, we had these license plates. Where did I see it? I think we clicked around a little bit. Oh, we talked about at the beginning the sidewalks. So the stone square tiled sidewalks, that's very common in Portugal. So I missed that during the game, but that could have helped us as well. And yeah, that's another win. Just doing these basic guesses, nothing phenomenal. Let's do one more game. And then hopefully next week we will be in the Silver 2 division. We're in no danger of being not promoted. So, okay, we have not English, long license plates. Should we look for any other clues? It doesn't scream out at me as, let me press Z on that because I wanted to look. So .de, which I think is Germany. So we haven't learned Germany yet, but we'll give it our typical Europe guess. And they may have found the city. And it was Hamburg. So we actually lucked out there with them finding the country. So that's two games now in a row where our opponent found the country, but we were closer, guessing in the middle of Europe. Okay, sun is slightly north. We do have the yellow line and palm trees. So I am thinking the Americas, at least with the yellow line. See if we can find some other clues. The pole looks pretty, I guess it's an octagon pole. So sun was kind of borderline. We do have, I was going to say we have Spanish, but I'm not positive on that. What else do we have here? I'm going to say with these poles, octagon poles, let's give it a Mexico guess. Sun was not clearly in one hemisphere or the other. They're going to go pretty far south. It might be a poor decision, but we'll see. So these poles don't match for Chile, I don't think. And it was Mexico. So win there. So with Chile, we had the similar looking to the Brazil poles, but there were no sections. So that's more typical of the poles that we see in Chile. Long license plates, and they are white in the front and back. Which side? Looks like we're driving on the right. So this does kind of have a British Isles feel, maybe. So good to double check that. But I think our Europe guess should be okay. I think we're going to be, well, I'm not quite sure where we're going to be. So it looks like we're pretty close to where our opponent wants to be. And it was Denmark. So we certainly could have moved around there and found some clues for Denmark. And we'll do that after, before we wrap up. We have, it looks like French to me. Let's look at this sign, because I think that's going to have that D marker that we said. So D 125 and French language with that. Oh, and then we have the French bollard. So we talked about that. So we are 2 for 2 on countries, I think. Assuming this is actually France, we're 2 for 2 on countries that we talked about before the episode started and countries that appear in the game. And it looks like our opponent knows France as well. So I think that was a good decision to think about France, and we won just being in the middle of the country. So yeah, players at this level for sure can identify France and Portugal. .ua. So we have that red car. I'll go back and because you can see it just right here. Red car, and I think we had Cyrillic here. We do. So Ukraine with all those clues. We talked about Ukraine briefly. I don't know that we've actually seen it in the game. Maybe we have, but our opponent is going Russia. That's fine. That very easy to get these two countries confused, and he, depending on where it is, he could possibly be closer. But nope, we're going to win the game there, and we'll give a good game. And yeah, so we're moving up the leaderboard here. We did very well today, I believe. So let's just take a look. Oh yeah, we won. So 4 out of the 5 games. So good stuff. Let's just take a quick look before I wrap up the video. Germany, so very European looking, Western European looking even. Let me go back to that sign. So these signs where it's wrapped in the metal, pretty common in Germany. You also see these in Denmark. So, well, let me rephrase that. You'll see similar looking signs with the wrapped metal. They are different, but so similar style in Denmark. And hopefully I'll get to show you that in when we go to the Denmark round. And then so long license plates looks more Western than Eastern, and which is that's kind of a vibe thing, obviously hard to describe, but yeah, nothing out of the ordinary here for our Europe guess. As we figure out Germany, we'll take a look at that again. So Mexico, we had our center yellow line. We looked at the sun and we said it's kind of borderline. So it was slightly in the northern hemisphere, but we are within the tropic. And then we looked at this pole or some poles and we said those are octagonal. And I don't know that we saw too many other clues for Mexico, but that was enough to get us up there. And I think, yeah, our opponent probably did the same thing as us and looked at the sun and got burned by the tropics. So Denmark, let's see if we can move around and see some of those signs. So here's an example. So the sign has the metal going all the way to the top and around. I guess I really should have seen some of these. So again, with this, the metal, I'd really like to see one of the city directional signs because that is very unique to Denmark. And usually like if we can find a road that comes to an end, we will see that. Here we go. So this is what so you'll see these signs in red and blue, and it has the metal pole that wraps all the way around. So that is very typical of Denmark, and yeah, not much else to say there. France, we talked about France. This was a good drop for us. So I think when we zoomed in, we saw that French bollard that we talked about at the very beginning. So it looks like has a cone on the top and has the red. And then we have, we had the D route number. So D 1250, the bigger the number it is, the harder it's going to be to find on the map. So no surprise that our opponent was not able to zoom in on those. I've always found them very difficult to find. I don't know if there is any rhyme or reason to them, but I have not been successful in my gameplay with that. And then finally we had Ukraine. So the red car blur. Um, the streets are they're okay. These are not the worst Ukraine streets that I've seen. And then the Cyrillic, and so the crosswalk is, they have the three dashes. So most of the ex-Soviet countries will have the three dashes. Um, one for the most part, you can see them without a big yellow border inside of Russia, but it's more common to see them without that outside of Russia. So um, those are a few indications of how we got to Ukraine there. So yeah, let's just take one quick look at where we stand here. So almost into double promotion zone. I'm not going to play this weekend on this account, so we won't be double promoted, and we are for sure safe from not being promoted. So we will see you next time in the Silver 2 division. And if you learned something today or you just enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you gave me a like. And if you want to continue learning and watching, please subscribe. And we'll see you in the next episode.